Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at some motivational wisdom, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And the source material you provided for this is the audiobook, Nobody Cares, Get Up and Work Harder.
Right.
And even the title alone is kind of a wake-up call.
It is.
So get ready, because we're going to be unearthing, I think, some real golden nuggets on self-reliance, hard work, discipline, and a lot more.
You know, the thing that really struck me about this audiobook is it really dives deep.
Okay.
It doesn't just kind of skim the surface.
Right.
It gets into the real nitty-gritty of the struggles and the triumphs on the path to success.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit.
Sure.
The audiobook kicks off with self-reliance,
Mm-mm.
and it doesn't hold back at all.
No.
It's almost like a challenge to the listener to break free from that need for constant validation from others.
Right. And the author is arguing that seeking approval from others can actually become a crutch.
Interesting.
It's almost like you're handing over your power to decide what's best for you.
I see.
You know?
Yeah.
Instead of that, the audiobook champions a problem-solving mindset.
Okay.
So instead of getting bogged down by setbacks, self-reliant people see them as puzzles to solve opportunities to learn and adapt.
Yeah, and there's this really fascinating point made about how self-reliance changes your view of failure.
Right.
It's not this big, scary monster anymore.
Exactly.
But like a stepping stone.
Yeah, it completely reframes failure as a feedback loop.
Okay.
Each setback reveals a weakness to address, a strategy to refine, and ultimately propels you closer to success.
So that leads perfectly into, I think, the next theme, which is hard work.
Yes.
You know, I used to think that motivation was like everything.
Right.
But this audiobook makes a really strong case for consistency, for putting in the work even when you don't feel like it. And it really gets real about what that looks like.
Yeah.
This comfort discipline and that really slow, often invisible nature of progress.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The author debunks this myth of overnight success, emphasizing that those quote-unquote sudden achievements are often the result of years of just relentless effort behind the scenes.
Yeah, like nobody sees that.
Nobody sees it.
Yeah.
And it's about embracing the grind, understanding that the true magic happens in those quiet moments of dedication when no one's watching.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's the unseen effort.
Yeah, and the audiobook even compares excuses to a shield.
Yes.
It's like we're so afraid of failing that we don't even try.
And fear is definitely a recurring theme.
Right.
The author argues that procrastination is often rooted in fear of failure, fear of the unknown, even fear of success itself.
Wow.
But the audiobook offers this really powerful perspective. The consequences of inaction are often far worse than the risks of action.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
This section on overcoming procrastination really resonated with me. It introduces some very specific techniques, like the Pomodoro technique, where you work in focused bursts with short breaks.
Right.
Have you ever tried that?
I have, and it's surprisingly effective.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much you can accomplish when you break down tasks and create that sense of urgency.
Totally.
You know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the audiobook also has this great section on turning failure into fuel.
Yes.
It challenges that knee-jerk negative reaction we often have to failure and gives real-world examples of how successful people use it to learn and grow.
The author actually argues that failure is an essential part of the learning process.
Okay.
It builds resilience, teaches valuable lessons, and forces you to adapt and improve your strategies.
So instead of seeing it as a defeat, we should view it as valuable feedback.
It's about seeing those moments as data points, not defining moments.
That's a good point. I like that a lot.
Yep.
And this all ties back to the idea of discipline as the cornerstone of success.
Yes.
It's what separates those who dream from those who actually achieve.
It does.
And the audiobook frames discipline as a skill you can develop, not some magical trait you're either born with or not.
Exactly. And it's about creating systems and routines that support your goals.
Rather than just relying on willpower alone, it emphasizes the importance of setting specific, measurable goals,
Right.
creating routines that reinforce positive habits, and tracking your progress to stay motivated.
You know, this section on discipline really struck a chord with me.
Yeah.
Because it's something I've personally struggled with. The audiobook's emphasis on creating a structured environment for success, like having a dedicated workspace free from distractions, is something I'm definitely going to try.
I think we can all relate to that need for structure, especially in today's world.
Yeah, for sure.
The audiobook also challenges us to develop what it calls a relentless mindset, which is a really powerful concept.
Yeah, this quote really stood out to me. A relentless mindset refuses to be defeated. It takes full responsibility not just for successes, but for failures too.
Right.
Like it's about owning your journey completely. That quote highlights the importance of radical responsibility. And it's not about blaming yourself when things go wrong, but about recognizing that you have the power to choose your response and learn from every experience.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff.
It is.
And this relentless mindset ties in beautifully with the concept of consistency,
It does.
which the audiobook describes as a silent force behind achievement.
It really is. It's that quiet dedication showing up day after day, even when you don't see immediate results, that ultimately leads to those breakthrough moments.
And this resonated with me because we've all experienced that initial burst of enthusiasm when
Yes.
starting something new. But what keeps us going when that excitement fades?
That's it.
It's consistency.
Consistency.
And the audiobook emphasizes that those who master consistency, they reap incredible benefits. Momentum, discipline, a growth mindset, and most importantly, trust in themselves.
It's about building that foundation for long-term success, brick by brick, day by day.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on to part 2, there's one more concept I want to touch on from this section, and that's self-motivation.
Right.
The audiobook makes this really clear distinction between external and internal motivation,
Yes.
arguing that true and lasting success stems from within.
It's about finding that inner drive that pushes you forward, even when those external rewards or pressures fade away.
Right.
The audiobook details several strategies for cultivating self-motivation,
Okay.
like having a strong sense of purpose, setting goals that align with your values, and maintaining a positive mindset.
It's almost like creating your own internal cheering section,
That keeps you
or
going.
even when the going gets tough.
It's about becoming your own biggest supporter and believing in your ability to achieve your dreams.
And that is a great place to take a little break.
Sure.
We'll be back in just a minute with part 2 of this deep dive.
Sounds good. Welcome back. In part 1, we dug into some pretty powerful concepts from nobody cares, get up and work harder. We talked about self-reliance and the real meaning of hard work, the importance of building discipline, all that good stuff. But now, let's explore a topic that can sometimes feel, I don't know, a little uncomfortable: the role of sacrifice in success.
Yeah, this is where the audiobook gets even more real.
It does.
It doesn't shy away from the fact that reaching those really ambitious goals often requires us to give something up.
Right, to make those difficult choices.
Exactly.
It really challenges this kind of, I don't know, romanticized notion of effortless success.
Right.
The author argues that significant achievements almost always demand sacrifice. It's about making those tough decisions, prioritizing what truly matters, and sometimes even letting go of things that might be holding us back.
The audiobook seems to suggest that sacrifice isn't about deprivation,
Right.
but strategic investment.
Exactly.
What type of investment, I guess, resonated most with you?
For me, the most impactful concept was sacrificing comfort.
Oh.
The idea that growth often occurs outside of our cozy comfort zones really hit home.
Yeah.
To achieve those, remarkable goals,
Mm-hmm.
we often have to push ourselves into situations that feel challenging or even, a bit scary.
It's about embracing those moments of discomfort, knowing they're shaping us, building our resilience.
Yeah.
The audiobook also talks about the sacrifice of time,
Mm-hmm.
which is something we all have a limited amount of.
We do.
And it emphasizes that to truly excel in any field,
Right.
you have to dedicate significant chunks of time to honing your craft, building your business, pursuing your dreams, whatever it is you're going after.
Right. It might mean saying no to certain social events, putting hobbies on hold, even streamlining your leisure activities.
So it's about prioritizing long-term goals
Yeah.
over immediate gratification, which I think is a theme that runs throughout this entire audiobook.
Absolutely.
But it's not just about giving things up. The author argues that these sacrifices, when they're aligned with our values and goals, actually lead to a profound sense of fulfillment.
Absolutely. It's not about feeling deprived. It's about intentionally choosing what matters most.
Right.
And those sacrifices become investments in a future that truly aligns with who we are and what we want to achieve.
Another point that resonated with me was the need to sometimes sacrifice old habits and ways of thinking that no longer serve us.
Oh, that's so crucial.
It's like making space for new, more empowering beliefs and behaviors.
As we evolve and grow, we have to be willing to shed those outdated patterns that are holding us back.
Right.
And it can be tough to let go of those familiar ways of thinking and acting, but it's essential for making room for new possibilities and growth.
Absolutely. And sometimes the audiobook points out We have to sacrifice the need for external validation.
Yes.
It encourages us to be confident in our own decisions, even if they don't make sense to everyone else.
It's about trusting our intuition and staying true to our vision, even if it means going against the grain or challenging conventional wisdom.
Right.
It's about defining success on our own terms,
Right.
not based on someone else's approval.
The audiobook also reminds us that we can't control everything.
Right.
That sometimes we have to kind of surrender to the process and trust that things will unfold as they should.
It's about finding that delicate balance between taking action and surrendering to forces beyond our control.
Right.
And that can be a powerful practice in resilience and adaptability.
Okay, so we've talked about the sacrifices we often make on this path to success. Now let's dive into another challenge
Sure.
we all face in today's world, staying focused
Right.
amidst a constant barrage of distractions.
It feels like a never-ending battle.
It really does.
The audiobook seems to paint a rather,
Yeah.
bleak picture
It does.
of our distraction-filled world.
Yes.
Which of the distractions resonated most with you and why?
Honestly, for me, it's the internal distractions that often derail my focus. Okay.
The constant mental chatter, the anxieties that pop up,
Mm-hmm.
those moments when I get lost in daydreams or worries about the future.
Right.
Those are the distractions I find most challenging to manage.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
I think so too.
The audiobook addresses both internal and external distractions and offers a range of practical strategies for dealing with each.
Okay.
For those internal distractions, it emphasizes the power of mindfulness.
So it's that practice of becoming aware of our thoughts and feelings
Right.
without judgment.
Without judgment.
Learning to observe them without getting swept away. The audiobook actually recommends meditation or deep breathing exercises as ways to calm the mind and improve focus.
Yeah.
Have you found those techniques helpful in your own life?
I have actually. Taking even a few minutes each day to simply quiet my mind and focus on my breath makes a huge difference in my ability to stay present and centered throughout the day.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
The audiobook also talks about the importance of setting clear goals and priorities. Yes, without that sense of direction, it's so easy to get sidetracked.
It's like having a roadmap for your day, week, year, life, whatever.
Exactly. The author encourages us to define our goals,
Yeah.
break them down into manageable steps, and then prioritize those tasks based on their importance.
It's about being intentional with our energy.
Yeah.
And focusing on the actions that truly move us forward.
Absolutely.
And along with setting goals, the audiobook suggests using time tracking tools
Right.
to monitor progress and stay accountable.
It's amazing how much time we can waste without even realizing it.
Totally.
Tracking your time can be a real eye-opener
I bet.
and can help identify those areas where you might be losing focus.
Right.
The audiobook also kind of debunks the myth of multitasking,
Okay.
arguing that single tasking, focusing on one thing at a time, is far more effective.
Yeah, it's about giving each task your undivided attention
Yes.
and doing it well,
Right.
rather than trying to juggle multiple things at once and ending up doing none of them well.
Exactly. And that ties back to the idea of being intentional with our attention. Where we choose to focus our energy is where we direct our power.
Now let's talk about staying motivated, which plays a huge role in maintaining focus.
Yes.
The audiobook argues that when we have a strong sense of purpose, a deep why behind our actions,
Yes.
it's much easier to resist those distractions and stay committed to our goals.
It's about connecting with our core values and using them as fuel for our motivation. The audiobook encourages us to regularly remind ourselves of our goals and why those goals are important to us.
It's like creating a personal mission statement
Yes.
that keeps us grounded and focused.
Exactly. It's about making our why bigger than our excuses.
I love that.
Yeah.
And while motivation is key,
Mm-hmm.
the audiobook also stresses the importance of creating a supportive environment for ourselves.
Yes, this might mean surrounding ourselves with people who believe in our goals, seeking out positive influences, or even consciously limiting exposure to negativity.
It's about creating an ecosystem that nourishes our focus and motivation
Right.
rather than draining it.
Yeah, and I think this is something we often overlook. We underestimate the power of our environment to shape our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
Yeah, for sure.
It's about becoming architects of our own mental and emotional landscapes.
The audiobook also reminds us that focus is a skill that can be developed and strengthened over time.
It is.
It's like a mental muscle that we need to exercise regularly.
Mm-hmm.
It encourages us to be patient with ourselves and to view focus as a lifelong practice.
It's about embracing the challenge, knowing that with consistent effort, we can improve our ability to concentrate, resist distractions, and achieve our goals.
So it's not about beating ourselves up when we get distracted,
No,
but about gently redirecting our attention back to the task at hand.
exactly. It's a practice.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Nobody Cares, Get Up and Work Harder. We've talked about a lot of things so far.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
Self-reliance, the hard work, discipline, sacrifice, battling those distractions.
It's all connected.
Now let's talk about the engine that drives it all, self-motivation.
This is where the audiobook really gets to the heart of sustainable success. It goes beyond those kind of fleeting bursts of inspiration and really dives deep into the principles and the practices that fuel consistent, long-term motivation.
You know, I used to think that motivation was this elusive thing.
Yeah.
You'd either had it or you didn't.
Right.
But this audiobook has convinced me that it's a skill,
It is.
something you can cultivate and strengthen over time.
Absolutely. It's about becoming the master of your own inner drive.
Right.
Understanding the mechanics of motivation and learning to tap into that wellspring of energy even when you don't feel like it.
Okay, so one of the first things that the audiobook emphasizes is the importance of having a crystal clear sense of purpose.
Yes, it's like your why becomes this guiding light,
Okay.
illuminating your path and helping you stay the course when those challenges inevitably arise.
So it's about connecting with something bigger than yourself.
Right.
Something that gives meaning and direction to your efforts.
The author argues that when your actions are aligned with a deeper purpose, motivation flows naturally.
So your purpose becomes your internal compass,
Exactly.
always pointing you in the right direction.
Yeah.
And along with purpose, the audiobook stresses the importance of setting very specific, measurable goals.
Yes. It's about turning those big, audacious dreams into actionable steps,
Right.
creating a roadmap for success.
So goals provide that sense of clarity and direction.
They do. They give you something tangible to strive for.
Okay.
And as you achieve those smaller milestones along the way, it reinforces your belief in yourself and it fuels your motivation to keep going.
So the audiobook also highlights the importance of cultivating a positive mindset.
Absolutely. It's about focusing on possibilities,
Right.
embracing challenges as opportunities for growth, and believing in your ability to achieve your goals.
So it's about becoming your own cheerleader, replacing those self-defeating thoughts with affirmations and a can-do attitude.
The author argues that our mindset shapes our reality.
Right.
So it's crucial to cultivate a mental environment that supports success.
No, while I completely agree about the power of a positive mindset,
Okay.
the audiobook also acknowledges that self-motivation isn't always about feeling inspired.
Right. It's about taking action even when you're not feeling it.
Exactly.
And that's where discipline comes in.
The author makes this really brilliant point about the relationship between discipline and motivation.
Yes, it's like a virtuous cycle.
Okay.
Discipline fuels motivation, and motivation, in turn, strengthens discipline.
So it's about showing up consistently,
It is
doing the work,
doing the work.
even when it feels tough or uninspiring.
Yes, knowing that action creates momentum, and momentum breeds motivation.
It's like that famous quote, motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you going.
Exactly.
So the audiobook also offers some really practical advice on creating an environment that supports your goals.
Absolutely. The author emphasizes that our surroundings can either enhance or hinder our motivation.
Okay.
It's about making conscious choices about where we spend our time,
Right.
who we surround ourselves with, and what kind of information we consume.
It's like designing your own motivational ecosystem,
Exactly.
one that nourishes your drive and minimizes distractions.
Yes, and along with creating the right environment, the audiobook highlights the importance of celebrating small wins along the way.
I love that point.
Yeah,
It's about acknowledging your progress no matter how small,
it is.
giving yourself credit for those victories.
It's so easy to get caught up in the big picture, the end goal,
Right.
that we forget to appreciate those incremental steps that get us there.
Exactly. Those little celebrations, no matter how simple, can be incredibly motivating.
It's about recognizing that success is a journey, not a destination, and finding joy in the process itself.
So the audiobook also talks about the dangers of burnout
Yes.
and the importance of self-care.
It's about finding that sustainable balance between effort and recovery.
Right.
The author encourages us to prioritize sleep,
Okay.
engage in activities that we enjoy,
Mm.
and listen to our bodies when they're telling us to slow down.
You know, this section really resonated with me because I'm definitely someone who tends to push myself to the limit.
I hear you.
But this audiobook has reminded me that taking care of myself is not selfish.
It's
It's essential.
essential for maintaining that inner drive and achieving those long-term goals.
It's about recognizing that self-care is not a luxury, it's an investment
Exactly.
in our well-being.
And ultimately in our success.
And the audiobook also suggests tracking our progress as a way to boost motivation.
It's about seeing how far we've come, those tangible results of our efforts,
Right.
and using that as fuel to keep moving forward.
It's like creating a visual representation of our progress.
Yes.
A reminder that we're capable of achieving great things.
And the audiobook doesn't shy away from the fact that the path to success is rarely linear.
Right, it talks about the inevitability of setbacks and challenges.
It does.
And emphasizes the importance of resilience.
It's about learning to view those obstacles not as roadblocks, but as opportunities for growth.
Right.
The author encourages us to develop a growth mindset,
Okay.
to see failure not as a defeat, but as valuable feedback that helps us learn, adapt, and improve.
This reminds me of that quote, "It's not about how many times you fall down, it's about how many times you get back up."
It's a classic for a reason.
The audiobook also points out the power of visualization.
Yes.
Vividly imagining ourselves achieving our goals.
Right, and experiencing the rewards of our efforts.
It's about creating that mental movie of ourselves reaching our goals.
Yes.
Feeling the emotions associated with that achievement, and using that vision to fuel our motivation and determination.
Visualization is a powerful tool for programming our subconscious mind for success.
The audiobook also encourages us to surround ourselves with supportive, positive people.
Yes, people who believe in our goals and encourage our progress.
It's about creating a network that lifts us up,
It is.
provides accountability,
Right.
helps us stay motivated.
Especially when those inevitable challenges arise.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we don't have to go it alone,
We don't.
that having a strong support system can make all the difference.
It can make all the difference in our journey to success.
And perhaps most importantly, the audiobook reminds us that motivation is not a constant.
Right. There will be days when we feel uninspired.
Yeah, when that inner drive seems to flicker.
It happens to all of us.
It's about acknowledging those natural ebbs and flows of motivation,
Yeah.
being kind to ourselves, and remembering that consistency, even in the face of waning motivation, is what ultimately delivers results.
The author wraps up this section with a powerful message about self-motivation being the key to unlocking our potential and taking control of our destiny.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that nobody cares, so it's up to us to take ownership of our dreams and make them a reality.
And that is a fantastic message to wrap up this deep dive on.
It is.
If there is one thing I want you to take away from our conversation today, it's that you have everything you need within you to achieve your goals.
You do.
It's about tapping into that inner drive,
Yes.
cultivating self-motivation, and taking consistent action.
That's the key.
Don't just listen to this deep dive, let it spark action.
Make it happen.
What is one thing you can do today to apply these principles to your own life?